Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistant. So remember there were 4 categories, right? Mm-hmm. So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love.
What I find most fascinating is a children's book. A children's book written by none other than a child, Ariana. With this book, she talks about her journey to healing, and she wants to reach children with a desperate cry. To me, that is so mind-blowing because, again, as children, we are impacted in ways that we sometimes haven't dreamt of, right? Whether it's, we were muzzled as children, whether we were not hugged, we were not loved, whatever those situations are, and we did not deal with them. And guess what happened? We grew up to adults and we bleed out on the people around us. So if we can address these things as children, OMG, can you imagine what a beautiful world that would be?
Good evening and welcome back to Monday Nights with KW Ministries.
Oh, yes. I am so excited to be here tonight. And I am so excited to be here with you tonight.
We have had a lot of great experiences here.
Mm-hmm.
We have talked to a lot of great people.
Mm-hmm.
We have had the opportunity to kind of look back at some of the people that we've talked to in the past couple of weeks.
Yes.
But I am really excited that tonight that we get to really be live with you guys again. And I'm so looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have tonight.
And I want to give some shout outs because even though we weren't live for the past several weeks, Christine Hayes stayed with us and shared almost every Monday night. Nikisha, and I shouldn't start calling names because I can't call everybody's name.
Can't call everybody.
But Christine and just wanted to say thanks so much for hanging out with us. And we see that you're there. Elder Hay is there. Elder Hay, Karen is our guest. And I said to her just now, I said, I promise you, Elder Hay will be on. And sure enough. So if you're there, talk to us. And we will, our gift will be a digital gift. I'm not sure exactly what it is yet. Annika will tell us by the end, but we're going to do a digital gift. And the way that you get your gift is if you join in the conversation and talk with us as we talk in the comment section, and then just converse with us. Yeah. So what are we doing here? What's up?
Well, as a reminder, those of you who have been with us all along the way, this will come as no surprise to you. But for those of you who might be joining us for the very first time, of course, we've got to talk a little bit about KW Ministries, why we're even here to begin with. We are literally about sharing our individual experiences, our journeys along this pathway of life, the things that have helped us, the things that have hurt us, the things that have developed us, the things that have brought us to the place where we now are at. Now, you might think that what I mean by that is that when we say a journey of healing is that we've arrived. But that's not what we're talking about. We are all on a journey, and KW Ministries is really about highlighting that journey wherever we are along that path. Mm-hmm. And so for some people that you heard from before, they're still on that path. For some people that you will hear from in the future, they have already gone through some stuff and they're like, listen, here's how you get through it. There's so many different variations to this, but we want to give each other an opportunity to express where we've been, what's been helpful, what's been harmful, and just help each other to grow and learn.
All right. I'm excited. I'm also, Kamala, excited about the future. We have some really special guests coming up. Christine Hay just called her name a while ago. Yes. She's going to be a guest in a couple of weeks. And then Nikki out of Canada is going to be our guest. She does poetry. She does flowers. And I don't have those dates in front of me, but I'm really, really looking forward to those conversations. I think there's going to be so much to glean from them.
Absolutely. I think something that we've learned along this journey of ours here on Monday nights is that there are so many different ways that we all go about our journeys.
Yes.
And so many different ways that we've learned to cope, so many ways that we've learned how to express ourselves, so many ways that we've learned to be resilient no matter what we've gone through. And I think that's really important, because for a lot of us, we haven't had that experience of, being able to express ourselves as we've gone through challenging stuff. But here's this opportunity. We're doing that.
We're doing that. And also, just to remind everybody, we're also keeping shop. So please head over to kwministries.net, kwministries.net. Grab yourself a devotional, grab yourself a tote, it's cold. Well, depending on where you are. Karen is out there in California, so it's warm, but depending on where you are, grab yourself a mug. So again, welcome. We're really, really excited. And should we go ahead and introduce Karen now, or when we come back?
Maybe when we come back.
Let's take our first break and we'll be right back.
While you're on the break, kwministries.net.
That's right.
Head right to the shop.
That's right. All right, welcome back. And we are so excited to have Karen with us tonight. And Karen is a teacher by trade. She's a brilliant person. I was saying to Kamala that she has two boys. No,
Nope.
she has two grown men.
She does.
And so, Karen, welcome. We're so excited that you're here with us this evening. And you're going to come in any second now. Thank you so much, Queen, for being here. All right, and okay, well, she's coming. There
Hello.
she is. Hey, Karen, how are you?
I am doing
How are
great.
you doing?
I am well. It's good to be here. I'm
It's good to see
excited.
you.
Likewise.
How is California?
Cold. Cold.
Cold.
Yes.
Oh, where in California are you?
I'm in Weimar. Nobody knows Weimar, so we say Colfax. Nobody knows Colfax, so we say we're 45 minutes away from Sacramento.
Okay. All right. Well, man, we're so excited that you could join us this evening. I was just saying to Kamala that Karen has two boys, but you have two grown men.
Yes, I do. I have two men.
Yeah.
All right. And your sister is on here, Queen Nanny. I can't say her but she's on here. Just wanted for you to know. Can you see? You can see who's there, Karen?
I cannot. No.
Okay. So she's on here,
Okay.
and she just wanted for you to know that there she is. She says, I'm Karen's elder sister. So, all right. So welcome. And I am really excited about the conversation that we're going to have tonight.
I'm looking forward to it, but I'm a little bit nervous.
That's okay.
So, Karen, I guess a great place for us to start, which, this is kind of the story of us.
Here goes Christine. Hi,
Hey,
Christine.
Christine.
Hi,
So
Christine.
it's really the story of you. All of us have been through experiences in life. We start out at an early age. We have our family experiences. We have those experiences throughout our teenage years. We end up as adults that navigate situations and circumstances. And a lot of the ways we do that sometimes starts with how we learned how to navigate things early in life. So, Karen, start us off with early life. Tell us about your family and how you grew up.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I grew up in a very tight-knit, I would believe, family. I had 5 other siblings. We were a matriarchal family. My grandmother was the head of the family. She was amazing, full of wisdom, full of love, just brilliant. She had such discernment. And, she was a praying woman. That was something I admired about her. She was a praying woman. So
Yeah.
that was the extent of my family life. When I was around 7, I lived briefly with my dad. And it was a little bit of a not so good time in my life, but that was the only time I felt a sense of insecurity when it came to family. But beyond that, it was always family was amazing.
Yeah. Karen, where do you land in the lineup of those 5 siblings?
I am smack in the middle. I'm number 3.
Number 3. Now,
Yes.
Karen, I imagine that being number 3 in this lineup comes with some interesting stories of the dynamics between you and your siblings. Give us a picture of that. What did that look like for you as the middle child?
As the middle child, they were very protective of me, except when I was very young. I remember the 2 older siblings ganging up on me. And I remember hiding behind a door with my mashed potatoes. That I remember. That is the only time I remember having siblings ganging up on me. But as we grew grew older, they were very protective of me, especially my older sister. And up to today, she is that way. We used to tease each other a lot. I remember that too. We used to tease each other. But beyond that, we had good relationship. We didn't have much sibling rivalry at all.
Wow. How do you think you guys avoided that? Oh, Queen says she was jealous.
I think because of what we saw played out through my grandmother, her loving kindness, her exemplary behavior and conduct in resolving conflicts, I think that was a model for us to know how to handle conflicts in and amongst ourselves. And they would make us work out our conflicts as well. So that was something we learned from an early age. They would make us work out our conflict.
Talk to us a little bit more about working on conflicts, especially as you can remember it from a child standpoint. What were some of the lessons that you were taught to how to deal with conflict?
Okay, so one of the things that it would do is if we had a conflict over an item, the first thing they would do is remove that item from us until we figured out how to work it out so that we can all enjoy that item together. If we couldn't enjoy it together, we wouldn't have that item. So we had to learn that if we wanted something that we liked, we had to share it. And we had to figure out a way that each of us could enjoy it. So that was one thing I remember very clearly.
Yeah.
Would it be safe then to say a really good lesson from that would be people are more important than things?
Yes. And I think that has been translated into how the Lord has led me to live now because of what I saw. The value was placed on people and not on possession. So one example was my first car that I got new. My brother, who is now deceased, very shortly after I had the car, he borrowed it one night and came home with the car severely damaged. My response was not, how could you have done this? My response was, I'm so glad that life is spared. I can always get another car. I can't get another brother.
Yeah.
And so I learned from an early age that it wasn't the possession, it was people that really mattered.
I like that. And I want to explore that some more. I don't want to leave there. How has that informed you outside of your siblings? And we're going to talk about your ministry. I don't want to go there yet, but without going there, maybe in the classroom, how has that informed you outside of your siblings? How's that informed your life?
Sometimes you have students who will come along and you'll have your own personal things. They may like it. I'm willing to hand that over. Or if they damage something, it's not detrimental. It's not something that makes you want to cut them off or treat them in a way that is not kind. It's a possession. It's something that is replaceable. And so for me, I have, and sometimes I feel like I borderline don't care about items, and I have to remind myself that I still need to value things and treat it with respect still, but not to the point where you're worshiping it or you feel like, oh, this thing is so important to me that I can't let it go. So having the value for things, but the willingness to part with it. And that's just across the board.
Yeah.
This is good.
So I really like what you said about, having the value in things, but knowing how to balance that. I imagine that somebody is listening or, maybe they might listen weeks from now, months from now. But I imagine somebody listening, kind of having that response. We grew up in this, some of us grow up in this mindset of, what's mine is mine. And I have to protect the things that I value, to the very, very end. Talk to that person about that balance that you learned and why that's so important, you feel like, just in being able to navigate your own life.
Yes. Now, as far as earning things and valuing things, that is important. I get that. But there is a greater joy in having something that you value and learning to share that with someone else who may need it more. And I've gotten to the place where even when it comes to donating items, I look at it and I said, if I wouldn't want this, I don't want someone else. The thing that I want most is what I want to be willing to part with so that someone else can enjoy it. And I get that from my sister as well. She just gives and gives and gives. So you see that you being the recipient now learn to in turn do the same. And so we find freedom in giving. And I will tell you this, I cannot outgive. I cannot
Mm.
outgive the blessing and the joy just from giving and seeing someone else being blessed by it. That's enough. But on top of that, God just keeps putting more. And I'm like, Lord, I'm trying to get rid of stuff, not get more. I'm grateful for it. But I'm telling you, that's how God works. And we don't give so we can get back from God. The joy is in parting with that object. And you don't feel enslaved. When you kind of grab onto things and this is mine and own it and feel like it owns you instead of you owning it. And that's how I see it. I've learned to become liberated by sharing and caring, and that has been the lesson for me.
Now, Karen, you have said a lot. You have said a whole bunch just now. You talked about the idea of us being enslaved to things, because I think a lot of anxiety that we feel, a lot of the pressure, a lot of the stress that we feel is our enslavement to stuff, our clinging on to stuff, and stuff controlling us. And then you talked about being liberated from this idea of holding on to things. What I want to ask you is, was there ever a point in your life where you felt the need to hold on to something? And if there was, talk to us about that, and then talk to us about the liberation aspect of figuring out, wait a minute, I don't have to hold on to stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I think all of us struggle with that. There were times, you know, up until about 2017, I think that's where the Lord started showing me the blessing of just giving all to Him. There was a point, especially when the Lord was calling me back to mission work, and I was just coming out of recovery and not having a whole lot. I felt like I needed to hold on to what I had and protect it because, Lord, how else am I going to survive? And the Lord at that time was really, I felt, impressing me to give it up. And the truth of the matter is, what I held on to, I don't know what happened to it today. I can't trace where it went. I cannot trace where it went, but everything that the Lord has called me to give, while I can't trace where it went, I can see the results of what it did. And I remember in that time, the first thing that the Lord did that allowed me to see the blessing of giving was a friend who was really struggling. She was going through a divorce. She had been married for over 30 years. And she said, could I borrow X amount of money from you? And at that time, I didn't have it a lot. And I don't believe in lending. And I said, the Lord started saying to me, give her that money. And for me, it was a big sum because when you don't have a lot, everything is a big sum. And the Lord says, give it to her, give it to her. And I said, my sister, I'm not going to lend you the money. I'm just going to give it to you. And up to this day, that lady still says that had been one of the most significant things for her. And she has in turn been so generous to me because at that time it meant so much to her. Not just the money, but the fact that there was an understanding that she was struggling. And instead of saying, okay, put this pressure and getting this back to me, I said, I understand what you're going through. And I know it wasn't me because I struggled with saying yes to that. But I knew it was the Lord. And from there on, that was like the catalyst for me to see the joy of giving.
Yeah. Now, if you were continuing here, interrupt me, but I'm curious because we started on this idea of learning how to let go and balance. We started there from lessons learned in childhood with
Right.
conflict resolution,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I'm just really curious about what other lessons did you take from those experiences and changing forward still today?
Mhm.
Okay, I am so sorry. I did not hear the question. Could you repeat it?
So Martin will talk about this balance of being liberated from having to have fear, how that came out of as a child from your grandmother. What other lessons from her?
Okay. Okay, I believe you're asking about what other lessons my grandmother, I learned from my grandmother. One of the major lessons I learned from my grandmother, and I know that in today's time and age, it might be considered a little risky, but my grandmother always believed that you should never, ever, ever have a meal and not have something set aside because there's a good possibility that strangers will come through in the night. And where we lived, you know where we live. We lived in the boondocks. We lived
So hold
out
on, Karen. Karen, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Was that your grandmother or was that a Rose Hill thing?
I don't know if it was a Rose Hill thing. I know that was my grandmother's policy, but it might be a Rose Hill thing. Tell me
Because
a little
mommy
bit
was
about
just like that.
really,
Yes.
really. So maybe it's a Rose Hill thing, but my grandmother believed in that. And I cannot tell you the number of times that people would pass other houses and come to our houses in the night, knock on our door, and my grandmother would have something available for these strangers to eat. And
Mhm.
so, that was one of the practices that she had was, always be ready to entertain strangers
Yes.
because
Yes.
others have entertained angels unawares. That was her policy.
Mm-hmm. 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 So this is good. Um, how has that impacted and informed you now as later on in your life?
Oh boy, I wish I could say I have that policy. I'm not really good at the meal thing. But I always consider that there should always be something available that if someone is in need. So I started this little God money pan. That was my thing. I can't do the meal thing. So I started this God money pan and I would just put change in my pan and that's God's money and nobody touch it. And when there's an emergency, when there's a crisis, I can always go to that because, you know, being not wealthy, I don't have extra resources lying around in the bank to just go pull out. So, hey, if somebody is in need, I can crack my God money pan and give them something to help themselves for a little bit. So that's where that's my portion. The cooking
That
part,
was
no.
how that transferred.
Yes.
Now earlier as we spoke, you spoke about your brother,
Yes.
and I want to go back to that. What was that journey like, losing your brother?
Ooh. That journey is still ongoing. It's a tough one. It really is a rough one. Hard for me to even face. Um, I it's just one of those things that I can't process completely. It's very fragmented. I know he was there. I know he's no longer here, and that's as much as I can deal with. So it was very, very difficult and still is. And facing it is something that I don't know that I have been able to really, really do to come face to face with. It's like just having my memory wiped. I don't remember what he looks like. I just know he was my brother. And I just know he's no longer with us. But
Yeah.
much of it, I think, has not really become a reality for me yet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
So
want to poke in. I don't know if I want to poke anymore.
no,
Except
that's
just
fine. That's okay. That, I can be as transparent as I can be, because as you can tell, it's a struggle for me to even address it, because I realize that. And
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like the Lord gives me that blessing of not being able to focus on those things. It's like I go to the store, I'm ready to open the door, to enter it, to deal with it, and then the door just kind of disappears. It's not even like I don't want to open it, it's like it just disappears. And so I feel like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe Lord, you are giving me time until I'm able to better cope with it.
Yeah.
but I think though, Karen, there's something to be said for that. Something to be said for to to recognize
Mhm.
that, that I still have not processed. I
Yeah.
still have not dealt with this thing
Yeah.
as yet. And so I'm just gonna slide right by it.
Mhm.
Um you're a teacher. Well, go ahead.
Yes.
Well, the only thing I would add to that to say is, it is important that you shared what you did, because
Mhm.
so many other people can relate to being right there in that same place.
Mhm.
And I think it's really important for us to be able to say to people, to say to ourselves, to say to you, Karen, that as we go through these experiences, it is okay for us to process
At our pace.
loss at our pace. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be something or to do something different. And so I'm really glad that you shared what you did, so that someone else could hear that it's okay for them too.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. You're a teacher. Talk to us a little bit about your journey through the classroom. I was talking to one of my sisters this morning, as a matter of fact, about the classroom. Talk to us a little bit about your journey through the classroom.
Okay, so I started in the public school system. It was challenging mostly because there were things that were out of my control. We
Mhm.
had huge numbers of student population. We had over 3,000 students in the school. So we'd get huge classes. It was a challenge, not so much because the students, but because of the bureaucracy that was involved and the policies and all of the extra stuff that just makes the job not pleasant. But as
Mhm.
far as in the classroom, I loved it. And I was very
Mhm.
hesitant to leave, but the Lord was leading me out for more than 3 years. The Lord was saying, you need to get out, because there were certain things coming down the pipeline that was conflicting with my belief. And
Mhm.
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 so it was that time for me to go, but I wasn't willing to go because, it was almost 16 years of my life that I had already vested in. And I'm like, Lord, this is going to look silly. How am I going to just get up and walk away? What am I going to tell my family that the Lord told me to leave and I leave and I don't have another job? So I was very hesitant
Mhm.
to leave, and I was debating with the Lord and bargaining with the Lord. I'm like, okay, Lord, let me just finish out. And when I'm done, I'll serve you. I'll do all the mission work you want me to do, because I felt like the Lord was calling me to do mission work. And
Mhm.
the Lord gently led me out by the hand. And I'm very grateful that He did. Initially, I was not appreciative of it because I loved my job, I enjoyed it. And so I was very,
Mhm.
very broken when I realized the Lord was saying, "You're not being obedient," when I tried to go back, because I had to be away for 2 years because of health reasons. And so when I was getting ready to go back, I started filling out my paper. And I remember clearly where I was. And the Lord says, "You are not being obedient." And I said, "Lord, I don't really mean that I'm going back. I'm just going to do this. It's just, it's just like my little to hold on to. Just let me put it in, Lord. That way, I still have the option." And the Lord
Mhm.
had to really gently pry it out of my hand. And I did cry a little
Mhm.
bit. But afterwards,
Yeah.
the Lord just said, "Trust and obey." And I said, "Okay, Lord,
Mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and trust you and obey. I don't know how I'm going to eat. I don't know how I'm going to live, but I'm trusting and obeying, Lord." And I will tell you this, I've not been
Mhm.
hungry. I've not been homeless. the Lord has taken very good care of me. So that was the
Mhm.
public.
I want. I'm sorry.
Yes, you can go ahead.
I want for us to go back to. I want for us to come to the trusting God in a second, but I don't want to jump something very important that you just said. Talk to us about your journey through your health concern.
Yes, yes, yes. That was a pivotal point in my life that I know God used as a springboard for where I am today. I love the Lord.
Mhm.
I was walking with the Lord, but I didn't know him as deeply as I know him now. And I praise God for how he uses things that seem very unfortunate to use them as a way to just say, here I am. I'm very present in your
Mm.
life. So in
Mhm.
2015, February of 2015, I remember just seeing these little markings on my breast, and I felt like they were little scabs. And I was like, this is weird. I have not seen this before. And I didn't pay it much mind. But I
Mhm.
just in passing on a plane ride to Jamaica with my sister and my mom, I said, I saw these things and it's unusual. And my mom was like, if it was me, I would be in the doctor's office right then. My mom almost jumped out of the plane that day.
Oh my God.
I tell
Hey,
you,
Karen, your mom's on here, just so you know.
she knows. And she was not happy about the way I responded. And this is me. I'm just kind of this laid back person. I was just like, oh, it's no big deal. It's nothing to be worried about. She's like, as soon as you get back, you need to go to the doctor. So we got back from Jamaica and I went back to work and she was on my case like almost every day. Did you go to the doctor? Did you go? Until I was like, okay, I'm going. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, I wouldn't worry about it. He was very laissez faire about it as well. So I'm like, I went back and I told her, I'm like, it's nothing to worry about.
Mhm.
She's like, no, you need to get it examined. So she pressed and pushed, and I went to get an examination done. When they did the mammogram, they couldn't tell anything. And she insisted again, you need to go back. You need to find out what's going on. And so I went back to the doctor. He's like, okay, I'm going to give you something for them to do an MRI. And so when they did the MRI, they discovered some abnormalities from that. And then they said, okay, we're going to schedule it for a biopsy. Long story short, after the biopsy, they saw that it was cancerous. And so they told me that was in July of 2015. They told me that. And I was like, okay, I took it very lightly, honestly, because I'd seen other people walk through breast cancer. And I'm like, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. And in the process, I was like, I don't want to do chemo. I don't want to do all of these stuff. So I was trying to get
Mhm.
additional things. In the meantime, this cancer was getting very aggressive and I didn't know it. So by the time we got to surgery, it was in the lymph nodes. And
Mm.
thankfully, thankfully, God was good. God wanted me
Mhm.
here. God wanted me here
Mhm.
because it was not a good situation. So they had to do a radical mastectomy. I had to do radiation. I had to do a year and a half of chemotherapy. In the middle of chemotherapy, they figured out that I had heart failure, congestive heart failure from the medicine, and they had to take me off of the medication. So it was touch and go for a while. But God
Yeah.
saw that he had a plan for me and he kept me around because honestly, I think that's the only reason I'm here. I think that's the only reason I'm
Yeah.
here.
So,
You.
so Karen, as you're talking about
Yeah.
this, there's just this positivity to you. There's this just attitude of, you know what, this is
This
fine.
happened.
This happened. It was fine.
How?
How did you do that? How did you navigate what sounds like it would have been a
Traumatic.
really scary experience? How did you navigate that at that time to be able to get to this place today?
Wow. One, I saw people walk through it. Two, I've seen my grandmother's prayers answered, and I was praying and
Mhm.
talking to the Lord. And the first phase, it was very evident what the Lord wanted me to do. As a matter of fact, Dr. Viv had gone with me to one of my appointments, and I was praying about it and asking the Lord to be very specific about what I should do. And I had been going to that doctor several times, and I had not seen this doctor before. The day that I went with Dr. Viv, my regular doctor was too busy to see me, and he came in. Actually, he owned the practice, and I didn't know it at the time. And he came in and he sat with me and he said, you know, he started having this conversation with me like, I'm not talking to you as a doctor now, I'm just talking to you as a person. It's like, listen, they're going to try to get money, they're not going to look out for your best interest. And he just went down the line and just sat with me and just talked with me on a very religious, God guided level that I knew the Lord had sent him to give me a very clear answer to the question I had: what's my first step, Lord, in resolving this issue? So that was very clear to me. The second part was not so clear. After having the surgery, they recommended that I would need to have aggressive chemo and radiation, and I did not want to do either. And I was wrestling with God for a long time. And the Lord was ministering to me and saying, you know, it's going to damage your heart. I knew from the get-go it would happen somehow. And so I was very hesitant, but fear took over in that second phase. And I went ahead and did it. And sure enough, that almost cost me my life. That was very, very close, because they did not monitor me closely enough. So by the time they found out that I had the heart failure, it was very, very low ejection fraction that I was having with my heart. And I decided I was going to go away to Pathfinder camp to top things off. And it was very risky what happened. I did not know my true condition, and I did not know how risky that was and how close it was to possibly costing me my life. So, you know, as far as coping is concerned, in the latter part, I will be honest with you, it was a struggle. It was a real struggle. And I did not know it until I went for lifestyle medicine treatment at UG Pines. When I got there, I realized that there was a lot of tension that I had kind of been holding in my body, to the point where when they tried to get a reflex out of me, they couldn't. They tried. They gave up after about 3 minutes of trying to get a reflex out of me because I was so tense. And I didn't realize I was carrying all of that in my body, you know. So that part was a tough part of my journey.
Yeah.
You mentioned Dr. Viv, and she said something similar, that she went through her journey, she had to be able to release some stuff. And here you go again with that. So what I'd like to, I want to ask you to speak some more about that tension, and that process of releasing it, because it's the second time I'm hearing. You remember when we had that on? She said that as she went through her journey, she got to the point where she realized she was sick. She got to the point where she realized things were, you know, not looking good. And yes, praying for healing, yes, but then she realized she just had stuff that she had to let go. So talk to me about that tension that you had to release, and then talk to us about releasing, not waiting for us to have a diagnosis to release that tension. Talk to us about that tension. And then,
Okay, so, you know, before I get to that, I do want to say this also. I had a very good support system. My mom was there for me. She waited on me hands and foot, because I could not do a whole lot. I would literally get the chemo, come home, lie on the couch for about 3-4 days, just barely crawl to the bathroom when I need to. It was horrible. It was so bad. I hated that chemo. And I believe part of the things that were happening to me was because of the chemo that I was receiving. So as it relates to the tension, oh boy, how did I release that tension? You know, when you don't know that something is happening, you don't even know that you need to release. I just knew that something was off with me. I just something was off. It was like I was living an alternate reality. I was trying to cope by not dealing. I deal by avoidance. And I realized that. And I just asked the Lord to help me to know how to cope with things and face them. But I deal by avoidance because I realized that even when my mom would mention something, I would not want her to talk about the cancer. It's almost as if I was like, it's not there. I know I'm okay, I'm fine, kind of thing. So all of that was something I was not recognizing that was a coping mechanism that I was using. I just thought, okay, I'm strong in the Lord. And I trusted God. I knew He had His hand in everything that was happening to me, but I was also dealing with it in a way where I was suppressing it rather than facing it. And so the time I realized it was when I went to UG Pines and I felt that tension. And I remember the guy saying to me, Karen, the doctor saying to me, Karen, you have to open the door and let Jesus come in and help you. And I said, I don't even know where the door is anymore. It's barricaded. I can't even find the door. And that's how I felt. And I remember praying the whole time I was there, Lord, show me the door, show me the door. I tried to memorize scriptures. I remember memorizing Psalm 40, verse 1 and 2, and really claiming those things, but nothing was happening yet. And it was the beginning of 2017. There was a prayer, all-night prayer at a church that my mom attended called Zion. And I went, and the year before, it was such a blessing. I felt the Spirit of the Lord there. I really felt like there were things that I was dealing with that the Lord helped me through that day. And I was like, this is going to be my solution to the problem. God is going to show up and He's going to write in and He's going to deliver me from what I'm feeling, And I'm there and I'm sitting and I'm like, man, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. And I remember a lady came in and she tapped me on my shoulder and she tapped some other ladies and she called us to the back. And I was like, okay. And when we got to the back, she started sharing her journey that year. Tell you, God is amazing. How He can use brokenness to fix brokenness, I don't understand. But someone else's brokenness fixed me that night. And I will be forever grateful because when she started sharing what she went through that year, what had happened to her daughter, how, it almost broke them, I just started weeping. And that broke through for me. What I was praying about for a long time, what I was struggling with on my own in a long time, that just broke it for me. And from that time, I have felt freedom. And it was the first time I recognized that was what I was doing to cope. And since then, recognizing that was the key. Recognizing something that is an issue. Because if you don't know, you don't know. And you don't even know how to get help for it. You just know something is off, but you don't know what it is. And so recognizing that has helped me tremendously because I can now see when I'm being triggered to go that route, and I know how to go about seeking help for it. So that's the thing. The biggest challenge is recognizing it. So if you feel like something is off, try and see if you can even share with someone. You never know. Find someone who you see as a confidant, as a godly person, a person of wisdom, who might be able to say, hey, let's see what this might be. Because if you can figure out something, you can at least address it.
Yes. Karen, you almost answered my question wholly. I was coming back to say to you, somebody out there has that same coping mechanism, the one that you had, right? Which was avoidance. And I was thinking about it and saying to myself, gosh, what would Karen say to somebody like that tonight? And what you said a while ago, I think was so, what's even
helpful.
the word? I want to go with more than helpful, right? Helpful feels inadequate.
Healing.
Healing, that's the word. For somebody out there who they also tend to go towards, this isn't happening, I'm not going to deal with this. They tend to go towards, and then what I heard you say is, when you feel that coming up for you, use that opportunity to talk to somebody else about that. Is there anything else that you would say to somebody else who has that same coping mechanism right now that, could help them to be better, to do that differently?
Yes, I do journal
Mm-hmm.
my feelings. I believe being honest with yourself is very important. Denying what you're feeling is never a good thing. And even with the Lord, I sometimes although I know He knows all about me and He knows what's in my heart, it's such an ugly thing that I don't want to say, yes, that's me, or this is happening. But I'm learning to be okay with saying, that is something that I'm seeing that I don't like, and face it rather than push it back and hide from it or hide it, because it just surfaces again, and it's like this fire that you're trying to smother, and the moment you remove the blanket from it, it just mushrooms, and you can't tamp it down. You cannot sit on it and suppress it. It's going to flare up and it's going to be bigger. So I'm learning to be honest with myself. The good, the bad, the ugly about me, I'm learning to be honest with it and realize that yes, we all want to claim that we are strong, but we all have weaknesses. Capitalize on those weaknesses and turn them into strengths rather than allow them to define you and break you, because you are as strong as your weakest link. So, no matter how strong you are, the weak things in your lives will be the thing that will show up more so. So, learning those weaknesses and learning to turn them into strengths, those are key things that I'm working on. And prayer is a huge part of my coping right now. Going to the Lord and talking to Him as
Karen,
my therapist.
you
Yes.
you I so we're gonna go back over what you just said, and we're gonna say it again in a well, let's walk through it together. So one, you said that we have to learn to be honest with ourselves. Spend
Yes.
some time on what that means. What does it mean that I need to be honest with myself?
Yes. So even when you see something about yourself that you don't like, instead of saying, this is not me, or it's a situation that's causing me to act like this, own that this is me, no matter how simple it may seem or how one time it might seem. Because the moment we start shrugging these things off, they become part of our character defects. So when I see those ugly things that I thought I never had in me, or when I see those weaknesses that I thought, oh, this is not really who I am, this is just a momentary lapse, I sit down and assess it very well and say, you know what? The truth is, this character is in me. If it wasn't in me, it wouldn't show up in this situation. And if another situation, if another episode occurs, this is likely to surface again. So let me deal with this now and address it. And when I see it, I recognize it the next time. And I learn to say, this is a part of what could become a character defect. And I recognize and say, I don't want this to be something that continues in me. So I'm honest enough with myself and say, as much as I like to think I'm nice and kind, I'm not always nice and kind. As much as I think I'm always giving, I'm not always giving. I'm giving to a certain extent. But if it's on somebody else's terms, I may not like it that way. And so I recognize that as a character flaw of mine, and I'm learning to work through it and pray through it and acknowledging it when I see it surface again. So that's what I mean by being honest with myself, because I like to think that I'm on my journey to the Canaan land, and I've overcome a lot of things. And so when these things show up, I'm like, no, 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 this is not me. Nope, nope. It's because of this person why it's growing up this way. And I have to own that this is me. Nobody can make me have that character defect.
Would you agree with this? That when God knows everything,
Yeah.
and I believe God is a really, really good psychologist. God knows everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could it be that I'm asked to confess my sins for that very reason right there, what you just said?
Yeah.
Could it be that I'm asked to confess my sins, not to drag me through the mud, not to embarrass me, not to do any of that, but so that I can see this pain body, so that I can see this thing that's hurting me, so that I can learn to heal? Could it be that confessing my sins is actually God inviting me to deal with issues that will ultimately destroy me?
I absolutely 100% believe that's exactly what it is, because the times when I deny it are the times when it becomes oppressive for me.
The times when I deny it is when it becomes oppressive for me.
Yes.
Powerful.
Even though it might be shameful and hard for me to admit, when I say this is it and cry out for help, I feel the sense of peace and relief in knowing, one, that yes, this is a thing that I don't like, but there is help. There's a possibility that this thing can be removed from me. But when I try to hide it and cover it, I can only imagine how Achan must have felt hiding that thing. Because when you're hiding something, it enslaves you, it owns you, it's ever lurking in the back of your mind that this thing is going to surge again.
Yeah.
So for
This
me,
is
I
good.
believe that is it.
Yeah.
This is good. I told you the time was going to go by fast. You're wearing a shirt. Tell us about that shirt that you're wearing.
Oh my, yes, this is the joy of my life. So the Lord has saved me so that I can serve him. I said the Lord has set me free to serve him. He has saved me to serve him. And so the Lord has given me a ministry to do a work in the country of Uganda. And it has just been such a transformative thing for me. Currently, we are working with churches in unentered areas. We are working to build a school and an orphanage. That is the joy of my life. I cannot wait for that to happen. And God has already started manifesting that he wants it done, because, I'm planning to go in December. And when I made my plan to go, things were not looking good. Like, Lord, how's this going to work out? But the Lord has affirmed and confirmed. I'm so, so, so excited about what the Lord has done. He has sent one person, not this past Sunday, but the previous Sunday, he has sent one person to give a generous donation that affirms and seals that he is going to build that orphanage. It's already done. It's already done. And I'm so excited about what God is doing. So yes,
how
go ahead.
How did you get to Uganda?
Oh, that was a story of God's miraculous, leading. This started in 2006, actually, and I will tell you a quick miracle story. Was that when I was going through a tough time. It was one of the toughest time in my life financially. And I remember needing to get a visa and being at church, and the Lord said, it was summer and I didn't have money. And I felt like I still needed to give something to the Lord. I'm like, Lord, should I give it to you or should I use it for the visa? And the Lord said, be obedient and give it to me. I did that. And I will tell you, the Lord showed up in such a marvelous way. He put money in my washing machine, $100, which I know I didn't have, to my name. I reach in my washing machine. I thought it was my kids putting $1 in their clothing. I'm like, where did this dollar come from? Reach in, drag that out. It was $100. The Lord put that there. To this day, I will never forget that miracle. So God has been doing miracles since 2006 to get me to Uganda. And so the Lord literally led me there. And it's the joy of my life. I believe that's why the Lord kept me around, because he needed, to show me the blessings of doing his work.
My gosh.
So, Karen, we need to have you back.
Yes.
But before we go, so your intention is to build a orphanage and a school. Say some
Yes.
more about say some more about that. Say some more about how we can all be a part of that.
Oh, praise the Lord. So, this school is for, I know you know a little bit about Uganda, that education there is not free. And students can
They they
constantly
say
struggle.
they say it's free, but it's not free. After you
Right.
have to pay for uniform, after you pay for um they say it's free, but it's anything but free. The
Yeah.
costs,
Of everything associated.
the associated costs are way more than a child would pay here for school.
Yeah. So that was what this ministry was birthed out of, that because as I was there, kids just kept saying to me, we want to go to school, we want to learn. And many of them attested to being converted into the Seventh day Adventist church through school. And so they would be sent back home from school because they were not able to pay the fees and all the costs that were involved. And so the Lord just really, really, even before I went, the Lord had put it on my heart to do a school and an orphanage. So the way that we can get involved is, our organization is Kingdom Reach Out Ministry. We have that organization there in Uganda. We have a mother organization here as well, licensed in Florida. It's not nationwide. And so I I just say, if the Lord prompts you, you can reach out to me. I can, have Pastor Taylor post my contact, or he knows my contact information. You can reach out to me and I will share with you how you can be a part of the ministry. But God is doing amazing things. I've seen God do wonderful things. The very first job the Lord had me do, I didn't even recognize it, was to build a house for a widow. I didn't recognize the scope of the work that the Lord was doing, and only God. And today, that widow lives in that home with her children. And during the COVID, it was a church. It was a church.
Wow.
So God is
Wow.
amazing. God has done. I just the journey, the testimonies. If I start now, it's going to run over time, because there's so many testimonies out of this ministry. I've seen God work in marvelous ways, and he still is the God of the loaves and the fishes. He provides, he works to bring to pass his plan, and to know that he is building this orphanage this year, because I kept saying, Lord, we need to start this year, but I didn't have a cent. I didn't have a penny to put towards this. And the Lord already gave enough for us to build a significant portion of the orphanage. Only God. Only God. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to going in December.
Wow.
Well, Karen, this has been a journey indeed.
Yes.
And I don't know. We need to have you back. That's for sure. So let's not close down our chat there. Let's continue our chat so that we can set up a new date, and we can talk some more. And one of the things that I would like to do, and I'd like to prep your mind for, and I'm only going back to it because of something you said. I would like for us to go back and talk about your brother.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's only because of something that in dealing with the whole tension piece, in dealing with the whole avoidance piece. So you feel me? So
Yes.
I want to see if we can go back and I think that would be, if we can, and if you're not comfortable, we won't. But if you can, I think that would be so. I mean, I don't know that you get much better than tonight, but I think that would be a lot of healing, not just you. You and Kamala have something in common. She lost her brother, and I think it would be a great conversation to have.
Yeah.
So I would really like for us to pick up and come back to it. Listen, I want to say thank you so much. Wait, before we go, Karen, something your sister said earlier, if Annika can put it back up, she said her mom taught me never to suffer in silence. I think that was so powerful. Duffett says he's a miracle working God. Yes, words my mother taught me, never suffer in silence. I think that's powerful.
Yes.
Dr. Hayes wanted for you to know how proud she is of you. Can you put that up there real quick, Auntie? Dr. Hayes says, so proud of you, my sister. Prayer and
Yeah.
partner. May God continue to enlarge your territory as you do exploits for him.
Thank
Let's
you.
your sister said, let's lift up Uganda. Yep.
Mhm.
And then da, 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 da. Duffet again said, Psalm 65 verse 2, cast all your burdens upon the Lord and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. Then Brother Glenn said, accept whatever is happening in your life and deal with it. Sometimes the things that to us, sometimes the things that
Sometimes things
happen to us to help
help us
strengthen our faith in God.
Yeah.
There was so much comments, and we're so grateful for all the comments, all praises to the Most High, and so forth and so on. Thank you all so very, 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 very much for hanging out with us tonight. We're so grateful. We do have a gift. So would you just hold on 1 second? Let's roll. Let's do a little drum roll and see who our winner of our gift is tonight.
And as we're doing that drum roll countdown drawing, just so you know, the gift that you are going to receive tonight, our unnamed winner, is the Journey to Healing Seminar Guide and Companion Journal. That comes from our Journey to Healing series, and that goes to Clyde Watkins.
Clyde Watkins.
Wow.
I'd like to invite you to head over to kwministries.net. kwministries.net. There's a form there called Claim My Prize.
Claim your prize.
kwministries.net. Claim your prize. And there we go. If you head over to www.kwministries.net, click on
Claim your prize
and fill that out, and somebody will be with you to tell you how to access, because this is a digital
gift.
This is a digital gift, and somebody will be in touch with you to tell you how to get it. Karen, I'm sorry I'm talking so fast, but we're out of time. Thank you so very, 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 very much. We have to sit down again. This went even faster than I thought it would have.
And for those of you who did not win tonight, like Clyde did, I want to remind you that you can be a winner by heading over to www.kwministries.net. Go ahead and browse the shop. I am 100% certain you will find something that will change your life.
All right. And let's give your mom the last word. And okay, down here it says ownership and accountability. That's Karen's mom. We'll give Karen's mom the last word tonight. Ownership and accountability. Karen, I love you. Well, you know this.
I know.
And I have been benefited of being a beneficiary of your giving. I'm not going to say this publicly. It was years ago. Years ago, I was pastoring you. Mm-hmm. And you gave us $500. Oh, yes. And you gave us $500. And this was years ago. And you'll never know how much we appreciate it to this day. So we thank you for your kindness. We thank you for who you are. We thank you for sharing your story with us. And we're looking forward to sitting down with you again. Okay?
It has been a blessing. I am so grateful that you invited me to come along and share my story.
All right. Now, hold on a second before we go. DL, Auntie, I want to get, Auntie, can we get...
Somebody wants to know more about the Uganda project.
Can we get this information here so we can get it to Karen?
This person's on YouTube.
They're on YouTube?
Mhm.
Okay. So, Auntie, can we respond to this person? It's DLEDDIABOUR. We respond to that person so we can get that information and pass it on to Karen, please? All right. Well, Karen, listen. If somebody wants to know more about the project.
Praise the
So,
Lord.
amen. We're excited about that. Thanks, Karen, for hanging out with us.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
See you next week, Monday night. Thanks, Karen.
You're
Don't-
welcome.
don't-
God bless.
All right.